Coming up on today's show, I talk to you about something that's happened at the Vatican yesterday, day before yesterday, which is quite horrific. Yeah, that's today's show. So, hello, welcome. Today, I didn't want to talk to you about this, but I feel that I couldn't really not talk to you about it, really. You probably don't know this because a lot of the... it's not covered. Other than the Catholic media, I haven't seen it on any mainstream channel anywhere. So, I couldn't let the day end, really, without mentioning the absolute desecration. The act of hate, the act of evil, an act meant to hurt, meant to cause shock and outrage and disrespect to God himself. Not just Catholics, not just Christians, but to God himself. If you haven't seen this and you've no idea what I'm talking about, it is mainly because it's not covered on the main news, which I find actually quite appalling. If somebody desecrated a synagogue or a mosque, it would be on every news channel. This isn't. So I'm slightly troubled by that, but on October the 10th, a man decided to breach the security barriers around the main altar of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. I've been blessed enough to go to St. Peter's twice. And both times you aren't getting anywhere near that altar without somebody noticing. It's all taped off, it's all barriered off, and for good reason. You should not be climbing up to the main altar. And most altars are, in fact, I think all altars, not most altars, all altars have some sort of rope barrier or something along them that stops you getting to or near the main altar. Now, earlier this year, this happened. A man was arrested after he climbed onto the same altar that I'm talking about, the main altar in St. Peter's Basilica, and decided it would be a really good idea to throw off candlesticks and a crucifix, make a complete mess of the altar cloths and stand all over the altar, which in itself is an act of desecration. The altar then has to be reconsecrated. It has to be dealt with. And it's horrific. It's upsetting. It's horrific. On Friday the 10th, another man breaches the security barriers at St. Peter's Basilica and proceeds, and I've got video of this, heads up. I've blurred out most of what I can blur out. He breaches the security barriers and then proceeds to urinate on the main altar. As you can see, there are plenty of people about. He's then whisked away by security. But also behind the main altar, at the very end of that video, I'll play it again so you can see. At the very end of that video, you will see at the back of the basilica is what's known as St. Peter's chair, which is an encasement of the actual chair of St. Peter's, of St. Peter. It was out recently, actually. It was out when I went to Rome last year. And there's an altar there. And at the same time that this man is desecrating the main altar, on an altar behind that main altar, a priest and a congregation a priest is saying mass with a congregation. This guy then decides to breach the security, goes up to the side of the, as you can see, side of the altar, takes down his trousers to expose himself front and back, and urinates on the altar. He's then whisked away. He's whisked away by security and off he goes. If you're not Catholic or not religious, and whatever your situation may be, maybe you don't know this, but the altar is one of the most sacred parts of the church. It's where the priest brings bread and wine that then become, after consecration, the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ himself. Not a symbol of Jesus Christ himself. In each of these altars, or under each of the altars, in every Catholic church throughout the world, are relics, first-class relics, which are usually a part of the body of a saint. It might not be the entire arm, it might be a bone fragment of the arm, but they are built into or onto or constructed in such a way that the altar becomes a relic, if you like, or a reliquary, I can't say that word very well, of the saint. And when the altar is consecrated, an altar stone is either inserted into the altar or under the altar, and it is then sacred. Which goes back to the times of St. Peter, when Mass was offered on the tomb of the dead saints. To urinate on an altar isn't ignorance. It's not, he didn't know any better. It's not even disrespectful. It's satanic. The followers of Satan do all they can to desecrate altars, and they've been doing that since time began. Since altars were a thing, they've tried to desecrate altars. It's not an attack in any other shape or form. It's satanic. That's what it is. Now, listen, you want to email me and have a bitch? Bring it on. I'm more than up for it today. To do that to an altar, to those that are going to say to me, well, he might have mental health problems, may well be. Perhaps the mental health problems that this young man has are the way that Satan gets into him. I don't know. But desecrating an altar or part of a church, a Catholic church, is satanic. There's no other explanation. That's what it is. The followers of Satan, to be fair, they've been doing it for years. They do it in various ways. I've heard of people setting fire to altars. I've heard of people having sex on altars, urinating and amongst other things on altars, offering black masses on altars, anything they can to desecrate that altar. To desecrate altars in any way should not only be met with outrage and a deep sadness, but it also has to be met with faith. Our faith. And this is where we come into this. Satan wants the ruin of souls. That's all he's interested in. He doesn't want you. He's never wanted you. He will never want you. The followers of Satan have sort of convinced themselves that we worship Satan and this is why we do it, and he loves us and we want him and everything's groovy. It's not. He doesn't want you. He just doesn't want God to have you. That's it. That's the whole story of Satan. He doesn't want you. He's never wanted you. All he has ever done, he does because he wants God not to have you. That's it. It's really not... It's not complicated. It really is that simple. He just doesn't want God to have you. You can fool yourselves as much as you like that the King of Lies, which is one of his names that he goes by, wants you, and he'll make promises, and I'm sure that some people find that very convincing. He doesn't want you. He's never wanted you. He just wants to destroy your soul because your soul is all that God wants. We have to meet Satan and the satanic. I'll say the satanic faith with love. Yeah, but it's just... We have to meet it with love. You've got to put aside the anger and dismay and disappointment and outrage and sadness and the deep pain that this causes. We've got to put those feelings aside and show love. Love and reparation. We've got to pray for this man, whoever he is. We've got to pray that he gets the help and support he needs in this life. And we've got to pray for his soul for when it then goes to the next life. If he's been used to do the work of Satan, by Satan, or by somebody else, he needs every prayer we can give him. Which I guarantee there are not many Catholic commentators online saying that. Not many at all. And I find that quite sad, but it is what it is. An attack on the faith can only be dealt with and met with faith. So we've got to pray for the man, and we've got to pray that he gets that help. But we've also then got to pray and make up for the sin that he has just committed. And we've got to ask God for that forgiveness and mercy, that he forgives this profanity and the desecration. I find it troubling as well as interesting that this hasn't been covered by the mainstream media. I'm a bit annoyed about that. I'm actually more annoyed about their response or lack of response just as much as I am about what this guy did to start with. It begs the question, or it posed the question in my mind, that mosques and synagogues, as far as I'm aware, aren't open to the public as tourist sites and sites of historic value, and you don't, from what I'm aware, I've never known it, correct me if I'm wrong, hail@hailtalkradio.com, it's below. I'm not aware of any mosques or synagogues or any other religious establishment that do tours and have tourists like the Vatican does. So it does beg the question in me. St. Peter's Basilica is, first and foremost, a place of worship. It's holy ground, it's consecrated. The museums, not so much. But St. Peter's Basilica itself is a sacred place. So should the Vatican, should the Pope be deciding that actually it's closed? Should the Pope simply decide that actually we're going to use this as what it is for, which is a place of worship. We're not going to allow you to come and have a good look round and enjoy the art and believe me, if you've never been, go. It is absolutely breathtaking. I've seen it twice and it got me every time. But ultimately, it's a place of worship. So should the Pope, should the Vatican as a whole be saying, actually, we're not doing this. The basilica itself is closed unless it's for Mass or a celebration of some kind. Other than that, it's closed. You can see the museums, you can look at the art and you do the grounds and all the rest of it, but you're not doing the basilica. Should that be a thing? I don't know. I'm in two minds. I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know what you think about what's happened. I'd love to know what you think about the Vatican, who also so far haven't released a statement. Their response. I'd love to know what you think about the news agency's response as well. I'd love to know what you think about closing, whether it should be closed, whether it should remain open and we just need to beef up security. I don't know. What I do know is this guy needs your prayers. And I pray that you can find it in your hearts to offer him and Our Father, to offer up a Hail Mary, to offer whatever, and simply say, listen, this was wrong, but this brother of ours needs some help and needs some support. So let's try and give it him. Let's try and be there for him clearly in the time of need for him. I will be back tomorrow or Tuesday. Today's Sunday, with another video all about Fatima and the steps that we need to be taking as a community as a whole. And I've also got some Donald Trump stuff that's coming up as well, which is quite bizarre. But in your prayers today, in your thoughts today, keep in mind this man. Keep in mind what he's done, but also keep in mind him and the help and support that he needs. Remember, hail@hailtalkradio.com is the email address. Website, hailtalkradio.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Rob Weston Show. And don't forget, I say this every time, but please, most of our watchers aren't subscribed. They aren't sharing these videos. And the more likes and subscribers we get, and the more shares we get, the more people see them. And I hope you'll agree with me and with Winnie, when Winnie's here, that these videos are worth watching. You are getting something out of it. Remember, hail@hailtalkradio.com, and keep this guy in your prayers, and me while you're at it. Until next time, remember, in a world that has some very dubious characters, that has hate, that has evil, in a world where you can be anything you want to be, please be kind. Until next time, God bless.